iterating and improving and continuously getting user feedback is really key when working with any product, really, and especially so with the assistive technology stuff, because there's no better feedback from the person who's actually using it, right? I mean, it sounds like common sense, but you'd be amazed how many companies don't listen to their users. Anyhow, enough of that speech. Here's an example of where I am going to be listening to my users. This is a ring mechanism I was specifically making for a user to allow her to use a very small, this is a 23 millimeter GlidePoint touch device as a mouse pointer. And the idea is to slip the ring portion onto her finger and then to use her thumb to activate it. Now, encountered a couple of different things when I sent this off to her and got feedback. The first was that the this here was fixed, so you could change out ring sizes fine, but the angle of the ring could not be adjusted. So the first thing that she had mentioned was, well, can you make some sort of like a ball and socket setup to allow me to better adjust the tilt of the sensor part? So yeah, that was a great idea, which I had no idea how I was going to figure out and implement. The other issue, which was easier to solve, was that the way the sensor was mounted is it has this protective plastic lip around here, and what she found was that her fingernail was getting caught on the edges. So she couldn't clearly kind of move and readjust her finger. Her fingernail will get caught. And I'm like, okay, yeah, good feedback. I try to protect the sensor, but in protecting the sensor, I caused another problem. So I needed to solve that problem. So the first thing I did was first sat on this for ages because I didn't have any obvious way of solving the problem. And I recently went back to it and went through a couple of different ideas. The first one was, of course, doing the ball, like she had mentioned, with an inset there. And I thought, oh, it'd be cool. Let's use magnets. They're really cool. And for positioning it, it is really cool. It's flexible. It holds together like that. But it's just the magnets aren't strong enough. And in order to the size of the magnet to put in a ring that's actually a reasonably sized ring, it just wasn't going to work. And I'm trying to keep everything as light as possible. So this is okay. This was cool. Maybe I could use it on a future project, but it's really not going to work for this project. It's going to be too easy to move around. So go to hardware, right? And in this version, it's pretty much the same design, except there is a small screw that goes through here, and it's hard to see, but there's a little nylon 2 millimeter washer here, and the hole cut out is just enough to allow it to tilt like that, but it's still firm enough that it's a little bit harder to accidentally move it around. This didn't have quite as much throw, so I extended that part slightly, and I'm still kind of working on this to find the right mixture of the hole size here versus the length and the diameter here. But this does give a pretty firm yet adjustable setup. And when she was testing, she found that the smaller ring actually worked the best for her. This is a 16 millimeter in diameter, but we could print it out in any size. And then to solve the problem with the fingernail is I designed this so that it's no longer a two-piece unit. It's a one-piece unit, and I made it so that the sensor is flush with the edge of the plastic. And also I'm using this nice black top sensor, so it looks cooler too, right? So now you can feel the edges, but they're less likely. I'm not going to say it's completely solved, but I think they're less likely to knock into. Now, one of the problems that I still is still not solved, and I don't know if it's ever going to be solved, is how these sensors connect up to the microcontroller. This is just the sensor part, and the microcontroller part is connected via a ribbon cable. So right now, I have a small ribbon cable which goes through the back of the unit, and then the ribbon cable, which is about a foot long, goes to the microcontroller box. You know, it's not ideal. Boy, it would be great if it was wireless, but if I was going to do that, it would be significantly more complicated. I have to make custom boards, and just it would get real crazy and real expensive real fast. So we're trying to meet a middle ground between usability and cost. So I think that this new mechanism is going to work. I think the flat surface is nice. It's a really nice. I think it's a nice aesthetic look between the white and the black. There are little things like I've chamfered the inside of the ring part so it's not quite as rough. Because anytime you're touching skin, you want to be careful not to break skin and things like that. So this is evolving. I'm feeling a lot happier with this setup. It's going to take some more tweaking on this, but I think the fundamental idea is good. And plus, as a side benefit, I've kind of played with the magnet idea, and maybe I could use it for something else. Who knows? So that is the adventure of these little 23 millimeter diameter GlidePoint touch sensors. More to come.